Juan Martin del Potro is not your average tennis player. At 6 feet 6 inches, he stands tall, physically imposing on the court, but what makes him truly remarkable is his journey. While many tennis players are remembered for their trophy cabinets and flawless careers, Del Potro's legacy is built on something far more human: resilience. His career, marked by incredible highs and crushing lows, tells the story of a man who refused to quit, even when his body failed him time and time again. With a forehand that could break the sound barrier and a heart that seemed just as powerful, Del Potro took on the world's best and won, all while dealing with injuries that would have ended the careers of most. Del Potro was born on September 23, 1988, in the small city of Tandil, Argentina, far from the glitz and glamour of tennis powerhouses like London or Paris. His father, Daniel, a semi-professional rugby player turned veterinarian, and his mother, Patricia, a literature teacher, were far from wealthy, but they gave young Juan Martin one crucial gift: support. From the moment he picked up a racket, they nurtured his dream. As a teenager, he trained relentlessly, and his natural talent combined with his towering frame made him a force to be reckoned with on the junior circuit. By the time he turned pro in 2005, the tennis world was already buzzing about this kid from Argentina. He had it all: the serve, the power, and a forehand that could make even seasoned veterans shudder. But as his star was rising, his body was already beginning to show signs of wear. Every great athlete has a defining moment, a time when they step onto the world stage and show that they belong with the elite. For Del Potro, that moment came in 2009. At just 20 years old, he stormed through the US Open draw, taking down opponents with an arsenal of powerful ground strokes that left them bewildered. In the final, he faced Roger Federer, who was then at the height of his dominance, having won the US Open for 5 consecutive years. Federer seemed unbeatable until Del Potro stepped on the court. The match was a 5-set epic. Del Potro's booming forehand repeatedly penetrated Federer's defenses, something few had managed to do in the previous half-decade. After nearly 5 hours, Del Potro emerged victorious, handing Federer a rare loss at his most dominant venue. That day, Del Potro didn't just win a Grand Slam. He announced to the world that he was ready to challenge the Big Three: Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic, for tennis supremacy. But fate had other plans. Del Potro's body, particularly his wrists, began to betray him shortly after his US Open triumph. What started as mild discomfort soon turned into searing pain. By early 2010, the diagnosis was clear: a severe injury to his right wrist. Surgery was the only option, and with it came months of recovery and rehabilitation. At just 21 years old, Del Potro was sidelined at a time when he should have been contending for Grand Slam titles. What followed were years of frustration. Del Potro underwent his first wrist surgery in 2010, and while he was able to return to the tour in 2011, he wasn't the same. The power and consistency that had once defined his game were gone, and his ranking plummeted. In 2012, he started to regain his form, battling his way back into the top 10 and once again challenging the best players in the world. At the 2012 London Olympics, Del Potro had a chance to showcase his resilience. In the semifinals, he faced Roger Federer, in a match that would go down in history as one of the longest and most grueling 3-set matches of all time. The two battled for over 4 hours, with Federer finally edging out Del Potro in a heartbreaking 19-17 third set. Despite the crushing defeat, Del Potro bounced back. In the bronze medal match, he took down Novak Djokovic, earning Argentina its first tennis medal since the 2004 Athens Games. For Del Potro, it wasn't just about the medal. It was proof that despite his wrist issues, he could still compete with the best. If dealing with one wrist injury was hard, handling two was almost unthinkable. This time, the recovery was even longer and more grueling. By 2015, Del Potro had undergone 4 wrist surgeries in total, and many experts believed his career was over. But Del Potro's spirit was as unbreakable as ever. While rehabbing, he struggled with depression, loneliness, and doubt. For months, he was unable to even hold a racket. The sport he loved seemed to be slipping away, but Del Potro refused to give up. He worked tirelessly to rebuild his game, adapting to his physical limitations and finding ways to compensate for his weakened wrists. In 2016, Del Potro's perseverance paid off in the most dramatic fashion. Arriving at the Rio Olympics, he was ranked outside the top 100 and had played only a handful of matches that year. No one expected much from him, except Del Potro himself. In the opening round, he faced world number 1, Novak Djokovic. Del Potro was the underdog, but in one of the most shocking results of the tournament, he defeated Djokovic in straight sets. The victory sent shockwaves through the tennis world, but Del Potro wasn't finished. In the semifinals, he faced Rafael Nadal, and in another epic battle, came out on top, securing his place in the final against Andy Murray. Though Del Potro would ultimately lose to Murray in the final, he left Rio with a silver medal and the admiration of millions. After years of surgeries, doubts, and setbacks, Del Potro had returned to the top of the game in one of the most improbable comebacks in tennis history. In 2018, nearly a decade after his first Grand Slam victory, Del Potro once again found himself in the US Open final. This time he faced Novak Djokovic, a player at the peak of his powers. Del Potro fought valiantly, but ultimately fell short, losing in straight sets. However, the fact that he had made it to another Grand Slam final, after years of career-threatening injuries, was a victory in itself. Even after his remarkable 2018 season, Del Potro's body continued to betray him. In 2019, he fractured his kneecap, a devastating injury that once again sidelined him for months. Surgery followed, and as Del Potro worked to recover, it became clear that his body was reaching its limit. Despite the pain, despite the surgeries, and despite the years spent in rehabilitation, Del Potro's heart never wavered. He became a symbol of resilience, not just in tennis, but in sports as a whole. For Del Potro, it was never just about winning titles. It was about showing the world that no matter how many times you fall, you can always get back up. Juan Martin del Potro may not have the trophy count of Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, or Novak Djokovic, but his legacy is etched in the hearts of tennis fans. He is the man who, with a broken body, took down the best players in the world. He fought, not just for titles, but for the right to compete. His story is one of incredible perseverance, of never giving up even when everything seemed lost. In the end, Del Potro is more than just a tennis giant. He's a warrior who taught us all what it means to fight against the odds.